Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another video. Today it's going to be a mentality coaching video. This one's going to be having to do with ladder mentality, and how to navigate those kinds of emotions. First thing we want to talk about is that StarCraft is an exceptionally frustrating game. It is a reflection of your own competence and self-improvement. The way I think about this game whenever I join / play a game is that it's like mental chess to an extent, and it's me putting my brain against someone else's, right? It's just like we are putting ourselves on a digital battlefield, brain versus brain, and most people's brains do not, or cannot rather, even accept the fact that they could lose to someone else in a battle of skill and attrition, right? So I think that is a lot of what drives the toxicity in this game. Is what makes people elitist, and it's what makes them really, think that they're better than others, right? It's also what makes losing to those kinds of individuals so frustrating. No one wants to lose to the guy that's BMing or being an asshole or anything like that, right? And I know that people talk a lot about ladder anxiety, and that's because of the MMR / point system. Now, a lot of you might be new or newer, or maybe some of you that are older and even play from this other era that I'm about to mention don't remember it too well because it's been so long. But I remember a time before MMR was a thing. There was no MMR. It was just leagues. You got promoted seemingly randomly. Of course, it was after a win streak, but you could literally get promoted from Platinum to GM. And I think that there was less ladder anxiety in those days because, I mean, it was still impossible to be demoted, but you didn't have a fake point indicator that indicated how skillful you were. And now that we do have point indicators, which are a good indicator of skill, but they are not a absolute indicator, Like if I go up to 5.3 one day and then 2 days later I have a bad streak and I'm at 4.9 again, that for someone to then go and say like, oh, you're a 4.9 player kind of thing, it's not a good feeling. And that happens to a lot of people. It happens to the same in any league nowadays. Diamond, Master, Grandmaster, anyone that isn't the absolute best of the best and hasn't played 40,000 games and doesn't really give a fuck about that kind of thing anymore, excuse my French, those kinds of things tend to matter a lot because, like I said, this game can be a reflection of self-improvement, a way to help have that competitive spirit thrive, right? So what I want to say is I'm going to go over a few of the ways, some anecdotal stories today of how I dealt with ladder anxiety when I was younger, getting paid to be on like semi-pro teams / having to meet certain MMR quotas, and how much of a toll it took on me and how angry it made me and how I overcame those kinds of things. So the first one I want to talk about is, and in the background for gameplay, we're going to be having this absolutely insane game I played against a Protoss player named Amaterasu last night. He's actually in the Ladder Legends Discord, so if you happen to see this, my friend, insanely close game we had last night. Actually one of the craziest games I've played in months. Anyways, and what's it called? First off, I want to make something abundantly clear. Once you're past, like, I don't know, 4.5, and let's just say 10,000 games is the threshold, you know how to hit the buttons just as fast as almost anyone. It's hitting it in the correct order and having the presence of mind and the intuition / like premonition to know what to do next in the right order, and while like thinking and countering your opponent preemptively doing so, right? So it's just like, a lot of, like, for reference, a lot of the top GMs, the 6K plus guys, they love to be like, oh, 5K couldn't do this, so 5K couldn't do that, but it's just like they can, and they will sometimes. It just is a matter of, have you expected it before? They think that way because they've played so many games, and they also hold themselves to a certain standard, right? It's like being super proficient in art or anything of that nature, right? But regardless, I go back to what I was talking about earlier. So when I was 16, I remember going to bed like red hot angry at this game because I had just joined my first like actual pro team that was paying me to play. They were paying me like, it's like $150 a week or something like that. It wasn't anything crazy, but it was money, and I was a kid, and I was hovering anywhere between 54 and 5600 MMR at the time, but the threshold for joining the team to even get on it was 5500, and I had to beat a Protoss player named Renjin to actually join the team, and I did end up beating him 3-1 in a best of 5. I think that Nexus is off place. I can't tell. Kind of looks like one square to the right. If so, I'm a little disappointed in myself. Also, something to note. I placed this Nexus because I was hoping he would scout it so I could bait him into an all-in. Yeah, and then I went charge after Blink, and he's going Glaive. So, yeah, I'm sure you guys can see the progression of how this game becomes kind of insane. Anyways, so I joined this team, and you had to keep an MMR of 5,500, and not only did that make me so ridiculously scared to ladder, because I was just now barely above that threshold, but it kind of killed that competitive drive within myself a bit, because I didn't want to fall below the threshold that was in my contract. And it was really disheartening, because whenever I would start losing, it started to cause a bunch of anger within myself, and as if it was truly a self-reflection of how and who I was as a player, even though on a good day I could beat 6K players no problem, right? It's like, but because my MMR would fall below 5,500, I was inadequate all of a sudden, and we're talking top 1% of players in the world, right? And I remember going to bed like red hot angry, and I say that because I would be on losing streaks, and I would have to, like, how do I want to say this? Like, I would need to rectify those losing streaks if I wanted to maintain the salary I was getting paid and whatnot via this fucking virtual metric of points. But I was young, I was in my parents' house, I was abiding by their rules, I had school every day, and my bedtime back then was like 10 p.m. So if I went on a losing streak, I could not rectify that losing streak. It was just, that was what it was, and it was time I had to go to sleep. And so there would be nights I'd be walking up into my room, red hot, fucking angry, so mad at this game, so upset with myself, and feeling like insane levels of inadequacy. And it took becoming an adult and playing this game not for a salary / trying to be like super professional for me to actually realize that a lot of those practices I was having for myself first off, were not healthy, but second off, they just weren't benefiting me in general. I needed to find a healthier way to enjoy the game. I love this game. This game has gotten me through some of the absolute hardest times in my life. And one of the best things I've ever developed for myself in this game, and this is something that I recommend to all players that they do, is if you lose 3 or more games in a row, it's time to take a break. Go for a walk, maybe splash some water on your face, maybe make sure you're drinking enough electrolytes, staying hydrated, stuff like that. Just have something that gives you an actual mental reset. It's very important that you do this kind of thing, because you're not going to be fresh after those 3 losses. The problem with that kind of streak, right, is that you're angry about those games, and you are still thinking about them going on into the next game, whether it be subconsciously or actively. You're still thinking about those games, and that it just isn't a healthy mindset, right? So we need to find a way to take a break, find a way to do something that actually helps you mentally reset. Maybe it's playing another game. Maybe it's taking a break for the night in general. On the Proximba account this season, I often get asked like how my win rates are so high, and it's because I don't ladder unless I'm feeling fresh. There's no point in trying to ladder when you're not feeling fresh and you're not feeling up to the task. All you're doing is doing yourself a disservice, because you're just not playing at the level you know that you could be playing at, right? And what I think this is just paramount and exceptionally important to do. Sorry, I'm also watching this game. This game was fucking crazy. But laddering while you're fresh you'll of course, this seems like it's very obvious, right? But you'll see much more success in your games from doing that. Like, I've maintained a 60+% win rate. Like I said, I only ladder when I'm feeling fresh. There's just no point in doing anything else. Cristiano abides by this as well. If you want to ask one of our other top coaches, he doesn't believe in playing more than a couple hours a day. I think playing, like, if you're going to play more than like 10 or 15 games, just understand that you're probably not going to be as fresh anymore after those games once you play them. So that's the first thing I suggest. The second thing is that you have to start thinking of ladder less as an actual like upward progression and more like a roller coaster. There will be ups and downs, highs and lows, right? You can't expect yourself to just consistently ascend, especially because, I mean, we're human. We're going to be having different like ins and outs of what does and doesn't feel good on a day-to-day basis, and it's gonna change. You know, something could have happened in your subconscious. You may not have gotten enough REM sleep that night. Like, another thing I wanted to talk about was, sorry, he was doubling my supply at one point, by the way. It's kind of crazy. But one of the other things I wanted to talk about, get this prism, yeah, was sorry, I just remembered, was basically that I think custom games are an underrated form of practice. I think if we want to look at it from a different lens, also take a look at the worker count here, by the way. It's 1 base to 2, but the worker 6 to 22 probes. Anyways, custom games are a very underrated practice mechanism and also a warm-up mechanism, as well as only laddering when I'm feeling fresh. I've also only been laddering after I've played customs that day, and I feel like I am playing well, and I'm feeling like I am in good mindset and good spirit. So you find players of your skill level or similar skill, or hopefully even like slightly better, and you sharpen steel with steel. You know, I feel like customs are where the blade is getting tempered, and then ladder is where you go test the metal, right? You put the pedal to the metal. So I think one of the best things you can do that involves playing, like say you just want to play some StarCraft, you want to get better, but you're not feeling like crazy good about your ladder experience or how well you've been playing, or you don't want to lose your points because those virtual points are oh so important, right? We find someone to play customs with, you play some games, you can still work on your builds and do things that will improve your gameplay without having to actually win or lose points. It takes all of the stress out of it. You can actually work on builds. You can actually work on keeping a good level head while you're playing, and you can make it just as competitive as long as you are in the right mindset. You can also drill certain builds where you get to run the same thing 10, 15, 20 times in a row because that's just what you're working on. Good macro builds, things like that. And then when you go to ladder, it just feels maybe not significantly easier, but just like not only does it reignite the competition because now you're playing for points, but it also, especially if you been playing someone that's better than you. I see that observer right there. Yep. I could tell that I'm looking at it. I'm sad I don't have an ops. I tried to fake a move out with the observer, right? But anyways, it really helps to play custom games against someone who's a little bit better than you or your equal skill level, right? Because then anyone you get on ladder, it's like, at least, especially in GM, it's like, for reference, when I practice with Coach Eon, for example, he is currently like 400 or 500 points above me. So it's just like anytime I go against someone on ladder, it's like they're not going to be as good as the guy I was just practicing with and beating on occasion. We go pretty even, like 50-50. I think it's more like 60-40 in his favor currently, but you get my point. It's like, or when I'm practicing with Gamer Richie. So basically, the best thing you can do is find someone of similar or slightly better skill level than you to play customs with, and then when you're feeling fresh, after that is when you go to ladder. I don't think doing what we call doom queuing is very healthy whatsoever, where you're just queuing game after game and finding little to no success, or when you stop finding success, you keep queuing because, oh, it's stupid or someone's cheesing you or whatnot. It does not promote a good mindset. It does not promote a healthy mindset, and it's not going to help you improve any faster, you know? At a certain point, if you're playing games and like anger/doom queuing, you are wasting your own time here, right? So it's something to keep in mind when you're doing this kind of thing. Another thing that I want to talk about today is this is a strategy game, right? So you cannot get upset at people for utilizing different strategies whenever you just don't know they're coming. If I'm completely lacking map vision and someone all-ins me, I kind of deserve to lose. You might not think you deserve to lose. Your brain might not allow you to have those thoughts, but it is just true. Like, okay, they did something I wasn't expecting. They caught me off guard. That is the whole point of a real-time strategy game. Now, people love to say that StarCraft isn't a strategy game because it has kind of fallen by the wayside with that. And what I mean by that is it's become way more mechanically inclined. As in, the game has shifted less and less towards strategy and more towards just like a war of mechanics. But the strategy is still an absolutely paramount aspect. Take this game, for example. One of the reasons it was so ridiculously close is because I decided to add charge into my strategy, where this guy, Mr. Amaterasu, decided to go for Adept Glaives, which is a unit counter to charge zealots, right? So it's just like his strategy countered my strategy, which is what made this game so absolutely difficult, as well as I spent 400 minerals on a bait to get him to attack me. I just didn't know exactly what he was going for. I never saw a Twilight Council, right? So that's a good reference to strategy versus strategy, right? So I just want to say that it literally does you no good to berate someone for cannon rushing you or lean cheesing you or something. Really what it is that you're angry at yourself and your own inadequacies or failures or shortcomings because you did not see it, or you were not ready, or you did not know the response. You know who does get angry at stuff they don't understand? Toddlers. So what we need to do is try to find it within ourselves to be bigger and better men and realize that we are all here for competition. Be good sports about it. Go win some ladder points. Take a break if you need to. This game is ridiculously hard. It's the hardest game in the world. It's one of the most frustrating games in the world. But if you take the breaks, as I'm suggesting, play more custom games with people of equal or better skill, and only ladder when you're feeling fresh, I guarantee you not only will you find more success, but you will enjoy this game much more. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you did enjoy, please consider subscribing. Make sure you check out Ladder Legends for more curated coaching content, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.